The city woke before the sun. Its glass buildings caught the early light and threw it back into the sky, proud and cold. White-painted houses stood in neat lines behind tall gates, their walls clean and silent. Just a few streets away, old neighborhoods breathed slowly, their narrow paths holding stories in cracked earth and rusted roofs. Here, vendors called out at passing buses, and elders sat on wooden stools, watching the day like a drumbeat they had heard many times before. The city promised work, hope, and movement, but it also hid its teeth. Those who walk without protection learn quickly that opportunity and cruelty often shared the same road. In one of the older quarters lived a young woman named Amara. She rose each morning before the birds, tying her hair with care, greeting the day with quiet strength. Her hands knew work. Her back knew patience. She had been taught to lower her eyes before elders, to greet neighbors with respect, and to carry family honor like a calabash balanced on her head. Yet inside her chest lived a small fire. She dreamed of standing on her own feet, of earning dignity without begging for it, of being seen not as a burden but as a blessing. Her home was built on rules older than her name. Pride sat at the center, like a chief who never slept. Every word was weighed against what people might say. Every choice was judged by how it would look in the eyes of the community. Love existed there, but it was thin, stretched tight by fear. When whispers began, soft at first, then loud, the walls listened. A cousin's jealousy, a neighbor's sharp tongue, a refusal to accept the path chosen by others. These became stones thrown into still water. The ripples reached everyone. One evening, voices rose like a storm trapped indoors. Amara stood in the middle of the room, her heart beating like a drum of warning. "You have brought shame to this house," an elder voice said, heavy and final. "I have done nothing wrong," she answered, her voice shaking but true. "Wrong or right does not matter," another replied. "People are talking." Silence followed, thick and painful. In that silence, a decision was made without mercy. The door opened. A bag was pushed toward her. No blessing followed. No hand reached out. The house chose its name over its child. Outside, night had already taken its place. The sky closed in, and rain began to fall, slow at first, then harder, as if the earth itself was mourning. Amara walked without direction. The rain soaked her clothes, but she did not stop. Each drop felt like a question she could not answer. The road stretched ahead, dark and endless. In the stories elders told, the road was fate. It carried people away from sorrow or deeper into it, depending on the heart they carried. Her feet ached. Her stomach burned with hunger. Fear walked beside her like a shadow. She remembered words from long ago, spoken by a grandmother whose voice now lived only in memory. When the world turns its back, walk forward. The ancestors see what people refuse to see. Those words kept her moving. Thunder rolled. The city lights blurred through the rain. Cars passed, their engines humming like distant spirits. Then one slowed. Its shape was smooth, shining even in the darkness. To Amara, it was not a luxury car. It was hope on wheels. She lifted her hand, stumbled forward, and ran toward it with the last strength she had, believing it was a taxi sent by fate. The rain fell harder, washing the road clean, as two lives moved toward a moment neither could yet understand. The city had many faces, and it showed each one without shame. In the early hours, buses groaned awake, vendors spread cloth on the ground, and glass towers watched from a distance like silent kings. Between the white houses with high fences and the older streets where dust never slept, life moved with stubborn strength. Some people walked with purpose. Others walked with prayer. In this city, hope and hardship shared the same breath. Amara was known in her neighborhood as the girl who never greeted without respect. Each morning, she swept the yard before anyone asked. She fetched water, helped neighbors, and returned home with tired hands and a calm face. Elders nodded when she passed. Children followed her steps. She had learned early that respect was a shield, and silence was sometimes safer than truth. Her mother often watched her from the doorway. "You work like the dawn owes you money," her mother once said, half smiling. Amara lowered her eyes. "Work keeps the heart steady," she replied, repeating words taught to her long ago. Her father believed discipline was love spoken loudly. He spoke often about tradition, about how a family name must be carried like a fragile bowl. The world does not forgive mistakes, he would say, especially when a woman makes them. Amara listened. She always listened. But inside her chest, questions knocked like trapped birds. At night, when the house grew quiet and the city hummed beyond the walls, she allowed herself to dream, not of riches, but of dignity. She imagined standing tall without fear, earning her own bread, choosing her own path. She dreamed of a life where her worth was not measured by whispers or obedience alone. These dreams were soft and careful, hidden like seeds waiting for rain. Trouble did not arrive shouting. It crept in slowly. A look held too long. A rumor passed with laughter. A suggestion made by a relative who smiled too quickly. Amara felt the change before words were spoken. Conversation stopped when she entered. Eyes followed her steps. One evening, an aunt spoke sharply. A girl who walks with her head high invites trouble. Amara answered gently. A clean heart needs no hiding place. That was when pride stood up and truth sat down. Voices gathered in the room like clouds before a storm. Accusations fell without proof. Her refusal to accept a future chosen for her was called rebellion. Her silence was called guilt. You think you are better than us, someone said. I only want to live honestly, she replied, her voice shaking. No one heard the fear in her words. No one remembered her years of obedience. Tradition was lifted like a shield, but it was used as a blade. The final words came heavy and cold. Leave, until you remember where you belong. The door closed behind her with a sound that echoed too long. The sky answered with rain. It poured as if the ancestors themselves were washing their eyes. Amara stood still for a moment, her bundle pressed to her chest, her heart breaking without noise. Then she walked. The road welcomed her with darkness. Each step felt unsure, but stopping felt worse. The rain soaked her clothes, chilled her skin, and blurred the lights ahead. Hunger twisted inside her. Fear whispered loudly. Yet somewhere beneath it all, a voice rose, an old one, steady and calm. It was the voice of stories told by firelight, of elders who said fate bends but does not break the patient. She lifted her face to the rain. If I must walk, she whispered, let the road teach me. Headlights appeared through the downpour. A car slowed, its body shining even in sorrowful light. To Amara, it was not wealth. It was rescue. She gathered her strength and ran toward it, believing the road had finally answered her prayer. The house stood firm like an old tree that had learned to survive storms by growing hard bark. Its walls carried many seasons of rules and warnings. Inside, voices did not rise often, but when they did, they carried weight. Every mat on the floor, every carved stool, every framed proverb on the wall reminded those who lived there that tradition came before comfort. Amara learned this truth early. Her parents believed that order was the root of respect. Her father sat straight even when tired. His words measured like judgments carved in stone. A family without discipline, he often said, is a goat without a rope. Her mother nodded beside him, her silence speaking agreement. She loved deeply, but fear wrapped her love tightly. Fear of neighbors, fear of gossip, fear of being pointed at in the market. Relatives moved in and out of the house like watchers. An aunt who counted mistakes more than kindness. An uncle who spoke loudly about honor but softly about mercy. They gathered often, their conversations circling the same fire. What people were saying, what people might say next. Reputation sat among them like an unseen elder whose approval they all sought. Amara felt their eyes even when they smiled. When she greeted them, she bent low as she had been taught. You are a good girl, one would say, then add, but good girls do not ask too many questions. She would answer, yes, though her heart whispered, what is goodness without truth? Tradition in that house was meant to guide, but over time it sharpened into something else. It became a stick raised before it became a hand extended. Every story from the past was used as warning, not wisdom. Do you remember the daughter who disgraced her people? An aunt would ask during evening talks. Amara knew the story. Everyone did. The lesson was always the same. Obedience keeps you safe. When Amara refused the path chosen for her, the air changed. Her words were calm, respectful, but they fell like stones into a nest of fear. "I want time," she said softly. "I want to work. I want to stand on my own." Her father's face tightened. "A woman does not stand alone," he replied. "She stands where she is placed." Relatives exchanged looks. Pride rose. Fear followed. "She is becoming stubborn," someone said. "She thinks the city has taught her more than her elders," said another. From that moment, tradition stopped being a shield. It became a weapon. Every small thing Amara did was weighed and found lacking. If she came home late from work, it was called disrespect. If she stayed quiet, it was called arrogance. Whispers grew, fed by jealousy and half-truths. One night, the family gathered again. The room felt smaller, as if the walls leaned in to listen. "People are talking," her uncle said. "Talking about what?" Amara asked. Her voice steady though her hands trembled. "About your ways," her aunt replied sharply. "About who you think you are." Her mother finally spoke, tears shining in her eyes. "My child, lower your head. Pride brings trouble." Amara turned to her. "Mother, is dignity pride?" The question hung in the air, unanswered. Her father stood. "Enough," he said. "This house cannot carry shame. Tradition must be respected." Amara felt something break inside her, not loudly, but completely. She realized in that love had lost its voice to fear. They did not strike her. They did not curse her. Their punishment was colder. They chose reputation over blood. "You will leave," her father said, "until you remember where you belong." The words fell like a final drumbeat. A small bag was placed at her feet. No elder blessed her path. No relative stopped her. Tradition watched silently as she stepped away. Outside, the sky had darkened. Rain began to fall, washing the dust on the ground, as if the earth itself was mourning what the house had done. Amara stood at the doorway for a moment, hoping, just once, that someone would call her back. No voice came. She turned to the road, her heart heavy but unbroken. In the stories of old, elders said that when tradition forgets compassion, fate steps in to teach a harder lesson. As the rain soaked her clothes and the darkness wrapped around her, Amara walked forward, not knowing that the same tradition that pushed her away had already set the path for her destiny. In the city, words traveled faster than feet. They slipped through doorways, crossed market stalls, and rested on tongues that loved stories more than truth. Amara felt this change before anyone spoke to her directly. A greeting became short. A smile disappeared too quickly. Laughter stopped when she approached. The city had begun to speak about her, and it did not speak kindly. It started with a refusal. Quiet, respectful, but firm. When Amara said she was not ready to accept a future chosen without her voice, some ears heard courage, but many heard disobedience. In a place where tradition guided every step, her choice sounded like rebellion. "She thinks she is wiser than her elders," a neighbor said while tying vegetables for sale. "No woman refuses what is arranged for her unless she is hiding something," another replied. These words did not remain outside. They found their way into her home like smoke through cracks. An aunt repeated what she heard in the market, her voice heavy with concern that sounded like blame. "People are asking questions," she said, "and questions bring shame." Amara stood quietly, her hands folded. "Questions are not answers," she replied softly. But no one listened. In that house, repetition was stronger than truth. Each retelling made the story darker. Each voice added its own color of fear and jealousy. Soon, her refusal was no longer about choice. It became a sign of bad character. Her silence was twisted into proof of guilt. Relatives spoke among themselves, lowering their voices but sharpening their words. "She walks like she knows secrets," one said. "She dreams too big," another added. "Big dreams break families," an uncle concluded. Jealousy sat comfortably beside tradition. Some had accepted lives they did not choose, and her courage reminded them of their own surrender. Instead of facing that pain, they turned outward. It was easy to pull her down, then to question the path they had walked. Society joined in without invitation. At the water point, women whispered while filling buckets. At the bus stop, men shook their heads knowingly. No one came to ask Amara her side. In the stories of old, elders said that when community refuses to listen, injustice grows legs and walks freely. This was happening now. One evening, Amara heard her name spoken to the thin walls of her home. "She will ruin us," someone said. "Better to cut one branch than lose the whole tree," another replied. Her mother's voice trembled. "She is my child." "But she is also our name," came the answer. That night, Amara sat alone, remembering the words of grandmother long gone. When lies gather like birds, truth must wait for the wind. She held on to that wisdom, even as the wind seemed far away. By morning, the story had settled like dust on every surface of her life. Truth tried to speak, but society spoke louder. And in that noise, Amara learned a painful lesson told in many African tales, that when fear leads, justice walks behind, struggling to be seen. In that house, decisions were never rushed, but once made, they were heavy like stones placed on the chest. The family gathered again, not to listen, but to judge. The elders sat forward, their faces calm, their hearts already closed. Tradition stood between them like an old law that no one dared question. Amara felt it before a word was spoken. The warmth she once knew had faded. She was no longer a daughter being corrected. She had become a problem to be solved. Her father cleared his throat. "Our name is older than all of us," he said. "It must not be dragged through the mud." Amara looked at him, her eyes filled with respect and pain. "Father," she said gently, "a name is kept clean by truth, not by silence." A murmur moved through the room. An uncle shook his head. "You speak like the city has poisoned you," he said. "In our ways, a child bends so the family can stand." Her mother's hands trembled in her lap. She wanted to speak, but fear sat on her tongue. Fear of neighbors. Fear of elders. Fear of being blamed for weakness. Love was there, but it was quiet, almost ashamed of itself. An aunt leaned forward, her voice sharp like a knife hidden in cloth. "Compassion does not protect us from shame," she said. "Honor does." Those words settled like dust. In that moment, Amara understood something painful and clear. They had already chosen. Not her, not truth, but the comfort of belonging in a watching society. "I have worked. I have obeyed. I have respected this house," Amara said, her voice breaking. "If that is not enough, tell me, what more does tradition want from me?" No one answered her question. Silence in African tales is often louder than speech. It was the silence of elders who knew the right path but feared walking it. The silence of people who hid behind customs to avoid courage. Her father stood, signaling the end. "This discussion brings only disgrace," he said. "A wound must be cut before it infects the body." Amara felt the words strike her deeper than any slap. To be called a wound by your own blood is a pain that stays long after tears dry. "So I am the sickness?" she whispered. Her mother finally looked up, tears spilling freely now. "My child," she said softly, "forgive us. The world is cruel to families that fall." Amara knelt before them, not because she agreed, but because respect was carved into her bones. "I forgive you," she said, "but I will not lie about who I am." That forgiveness did not save her. They chose honor over compassion. They chose fear over love. And in doing so, they forgot the first duty of elders, to protect, not to destroy. In old stories, elders were the bridge between wisdom and mercy. Here, the bridge had broken. A small bag was placed beside her. No blessing followed. No elder touched her head to pray for her road. The betrayal was complete, because it came wrapped in calm voices and familiar faces. As she stepped outside, the door closed slowly, as if even the house was ashamed. The sky answered with rain, heavy and cold. In African tales, rain washes lives from the ground, but it also carries sorrow to the rivers. Amara stood in it, her tears mixing with the storm. She whispered to the night, "If my own people cannot see me, let fate be my witness." The road waited ahead, dark, silent, patient. And as she began to walk, the ancestors watched closely. For when elders fail their duty, destiny rises to correct what tradition has broken. The city did not sleep, even when night came. White houses stood tall with clean walls and shining gates, while glass buildings reflected lights like restless eyes. Cars moved like rivers of metal, and voices mixed with horns and music. Beside these bright streets, old neighborhoods still breathed quietly, holding stories in cracked walls and dusty roads. In this city, hope and cruelty lived side by side, sharing the same air. In one of those old houses lived a young woman named Ebony. She was in her early 20s, strong in body and gentle in spirit. From childhood, she was taught to greet elders with lowered eyes, to work with patience, and to carry family honor like a calabash balanced on her head. She did all these things well, yet inside her heart lived a dream, small but stubborn, of independence, dignity, and a life where her voice mattered. That dream became her crime. Her family home was ruled by strict tradition and quiet fear. Every action was measured against what neighbors might say. Every decision bowed before reputation. Love existed there, but it was tightly tied, never allowed to run free. When whispers began, soft at first, then sharp, her name carried them. Some said she was proud. Some said she refused what a good daughter should accept. Others twisted the truth, planting lies like weeds in dry soil. One evening, the family gathered. Lamps burned low, casting long shadows on the walls. Those shadows seemed to listen. Her uncle spoke first. "A girl who forgets her place invites shame," he said calmly. Ebony stood in the center, her hands folded, her heart pounding. "I have forgotten nothing," she replied. "I only asked to choose my own path." Her father did not look at her. "Choice is a luxury," he said. "Honor is a duty." Her mother's eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing. Silence wrapped her like cold cloth. An aunt leaned forward, her voice smooth but hard. "The city has filled your head with dangerous ideas," she said. "We warned you." Ebony swallowed her pain. "I work. I respect this house. I have done no wrong," she said softly. "Why am I being punished?" No one answered. In African wisdom, when elders refuse to answer, judgment has already fallen. Her father rose slowly. "A family must cut away what threatens its name," he said. "Tonight you leave." The word struck her like thunder without rain. "Leave," she whispered. "Father, where will I go?" He turned away. That movement ended her childhood. A small bag was placed near her feet. No blessings followed. No prayer was spoken. In old times, when someone was banished, elders poured libation for the road ahead. That night, there was only fear and pride. As she stepped outside, darkness closed around her. The door shut behind her with a sound that echoed like a final drumbeat. The sky opened, and rain fell hard, washing the ground and soaking her clothes. Rain in African tales carries sorrow, but also carries truth. Ebony lifted her face, letting it fall on her skin. "Ancestors," she whispered. "See me?" The road stretched ahead, long and uncertain. Each step felt heavy, but she kept moving. Hunger twisted her stomach. Fear followed her shadow. The city lights blurred through her tears, and the rain hit her sobs from passing strangers. Cars rushed past, uncaring. Buildings watched in silence. She felt small, forgotten, erased. Then she saw it. A car slowing down, shining in black, too clean for this broken road. In her desperation, she believed it was a taxi, a small mercy sent by fate. Gathering her strength, she ran toward it, waving her hand to the rain, her heart filled with one last hope. The road did not answer her yet. Fate, like an elder, waited to speak in its own time. The city breathed like a living thing. By day it shone with white houses, tall glass buildings, and roads filled with fast cars and loud dreams. By night, it revealed its other face. Dark corners, tired lights, and stories whispered by the wind. Old neighborhoods rested beside new ones, as if the past and the future were forced to share the same ground. In this city, hope could lift a person high, and cruelty could drop them without warning. In a small house near the edge of the old quarter lived a young woman named Ebony. She was in her early 20s, with hands shaped by hard work and eyes that carried both strength and quiet sadness. She woke before sunrise, swept the compound, fetched water, and worked wherever honest labor could be found. Elders often said, Ebony is good roots. She greeted properly, listened carefully, and carried herself with respect. Yet inside her chest lived a restless heart. She dreamed of standing tall in her own life, of choosing dignity over fear, and of walking a path that belonged to her. That dream troubled her family. Her home was ruled by tradition and pride. Every wall seemed to listen to what neighbors might say. Every decision bowed before reputation. Love lived there, but it lived behind closed doors, careful and controlled. When talk began in the community, it entered the house like smoke. Some said Ebony had refused what a good daughter should accept. Some hinted at lies born from jealousy. Others simply enjoyed watching a strong spirit bend. One evening, the family gathered under a weak bulb that flickered like a tired star. Shadows danced on the walls, stretching and shrinking as if they had voices of their own. Her uncle cleared his throat. "A child who questions elders brings trouble," he said. Ebony stood quietly, her back straight. "I question nothing," she replied softly. "I only ask for time." Her father's face was hard like carved wood. "Time makes gossip grow," he said, "and gossip brings shame." Her mother looked at the floor, her fingers twisting her wrapper. Silence wrapped the room, heavy and unforgiving. An aunt leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "The city has poisoned her," she said. "These modern ideas destroy families." Ebony felt her chest tighten. "I have worked for this family," she said. "I have respected our ways. Why am I treated like a stranger?" No answer came. In many African tales, when elders refuse to speak, fate has already chosen a direction. Her father stood up slowly, as if each movement carried the weight of generations. "A house survives by protecting its name," he said. "If one person threatens that name, the house must choose." Ebony's voice trembled. "Father, I am your daughter." He turned away. That simple act cut deeper than any shout. A small bag was pushed toward her. Inside were a few clothes and nothing else. No blessings followed. No prayer was offered for the road ahead. In old days, banishment was marked with ritual, so the spirits would guide the exiled. That night, pride replaced wisdom. When the door closed behind her, it sounded like the end of a song. Darkness swallowed the compound. The sky answered her pain before she could speak. Rain fell hard, cold and heavy. In African storytelling, rain carries sorrow, but also cleanses wounds the eyes cannot see. It soaked her hair, her clothes, her skin, as if trying to wash away the shame placed on her. Ebony stepped onto the road. The earth beneath her feet felt unfamiliar, like it no longer recognized her. "Ancestors," she whispered, her voice breaking, "do not abandon me." The road stretched forward, long and uncertain. It was a road of fate, the same road elders say never bends with tears. Hunger curled in her stomach. Fear walked beside her. Every passing sound made her heart jump. Lights from the city blurred through the rain, and her tears hid easily among the drops. Cars rushed past without slowing. People hurried under umbrellas, guarding their own lives. Buildings stood tall and silent, watching but not caring. She felt invisible, like a name erased from memory. Then, through the curtain of rain, she saw a headlight slow ahead. A dark, shining car stopped near the roadside, its surface clean and untouched by the world she knew. In her desperation, hope rose like a weak flame. She believed it was a taxi, a small kindness sent by fate to keep her alive. Gathering the last of her strength, Ebony ran toward it, lifting her hand, her breath short, her heart full of fear and fragile hope. The rain kept falling. The road waited. And fate, like an old storyteller, prepared to turn the page. The city never truly slept. Even when night covered with a dark cloth, its heart kept beating. White houses stood like proud teeth along clean streets, their lights shining behind high fences. Glass buildings reflected the moon and its secrets inside them. Not far away, old neighborhoods breathed slowly, carrying the smell of cooked food, dust, and forgotten dreams. The city gave hope with one hand and took it away with the other. Those who understood this walked carefully. Those who did not were often broken. On one of the narrow paths between old houses lived a young woman named Ebony. She was just past 20, an age where strength and pain often meet. Her hands were rough from work, yet gentle in how they touched others. She greeted elders with respect, lowered her eyes when tradition demanded, and listened more than she spoke. From childhood, she had been taught that a good daughter carried the honor of family like a pot of water on her head. Steady, careful, never spilling. She tried. Truly, she tried. But inside her chest lived a quiet hunger, not for riches, but for dignity. She dreamed of choosing her own steps, of working without fear, of living without being watched by gossip. At night, when the city lights flickered through the window, she whispered to herself, "One day, I will stand on my own feet." Those whispers became her crime. Her family's house was ruled by fear dressed as tradition. Every decision was weighed against what people might say. Every mistake, real or imagined, was punished quickly so shame would not grow roots. When rumors began to move through the community like dry season fire, they entered the house and refused to leave. Some said Ebony had refused an arranged path meant to secure the family's future. Others accused her of pride. A few lies were born from jealous tongues that smiled during the day and poisoned the night. One evening, voices rose inside the house like angry drums. The air was heavy. "You have brought eyes upon us," an uncle said sharply. "A girl does not choose before elders decide." Ebony stood near the wall, her heart beating fast, but her voice calm. "I asked for time," she said. "I did not insult our ways." Her father did not look at her. "Time invites questions," he replied, "and questions invite shame." Her mother shifted uneasily, tears shining but falling nowhere. Silence filled the space where love should have stood. An aunt shook her head. "The city has filled her head with wrong dreams," she said. "Such dreams break families." Ebony felt something crack inside her. "I worked. I obeyed. I carried this house with my strength," she said softly. "Why am I judged without truth?" No one answered. In African wisdom, silence can be a verdict. Her father rose slowly, his shadow tall against the wall. "A family survives by protecting its name," he said. "If one child threatens that name, the family must choose itself." The words fell like stones. A small bag was pushed toward her feet. No prayer followed. No elder poured libation for her journey. She was not sent away with ritual, only with rejection. It was a symbolic exile, harsher than open anger. When she stepped outside, the door closed behind her with a final sound. The sky responded as if it had been waiting. Rain fell suddenly, strong and cold, washing the dust on the ground and tears from her face. In old stories, rain comes when the earth is grieving. It cleanses, but also reminds the lost that they are small beneath the heavens. Ebony hugged herself and began to walk. The road stretched ahead, dark and wet, shining under passing lights. Each step pulled her farther from her past and closer to an unknown future. Hunger tightened her stomach. Fear sat on her shoulders. The road was fate itself, unforgiving, patient, waiting to see if she would fall or rise. "Ancestors," she whispered, her lips trembling. "Do not forget me." Cars passed without slowing. People hurried by, guarding their own lives. The city watched her with 1,000 eyes and offered nothing. Old teachings echoed in her mind. When the world turns its back on you, walk straight, so your spirit does not bend. Her feet slipped on the wet ground, but she kept moving. The rain soaked her clothes, making her shiver. Darkness pressed in from all sides, heavy with abandonment. Then, through the rain, she saw headlights slow ahead. A dark, polished car stopped near the roadside, untouched by mud or struggle. To her tired eyes, it looked like rescue, like mercy, summoning the last of her strength. Ebony ran toward it, lifting her hand, her breath broken, believing it to be a taxi sent by fate. The rain continued to fall. The road held its breath, and destiny prepared to answer her call. The city was restless, a place where old and new clashed like drums and wind. On one side, modern white houses gleamed under streetlights, their windows reflecting the night like mirrors hiding secrets. Glass towers pierced the sky, silent and imposing, while busy streets hummed with the footsteps of those chasing wealth, ambition, or simply survival. On the other side, old neighborhoods whispered times past. Cracked walls, clay rooftops, and alleys that knew every sorrow and every secret. This city was a mother with two faces, one that nurtured dreams, the other that crushed them without remorse. In one narrow lane, under a flickering streetlight, walked Ebony, young and trembling. She was 22, strong in body and spirit, but fragile under the weight of shame she did not deserve. Her hands, calloused from hard work, still carried grace. Her voice, usually soft and careful, now trembled with fear. From childhood, she had been taught the ways of respect and obedience, that a good daughter carries her family's honor like a sacred pot on her head, never letting it spill. She had tried to be perfect, but the world sometimes punishes even the obedient. Her family home had been a palace of rules disguised as tradition. Her father, stoic and unyielding, valued reputation over warmth. Her mother, once gentle, had become a quiet observer of judgment, her eyes reflecting fear more than love. Relatives whispered in corners, their voices sharp with jealousy and suspicion. The city's gossip had arrived at the gates of their home, carried on tongues like firebrands. Some said Ebony had rejected an arranged future meant to protect the family. Others claimed pride had poisoned her heart. Lies spread faster than truth, and in the eyes of her kin, she became the shame itself. The night she was finally forced out, the house felt like a trap. Voices rose like thunder. "You bring dishonor upon this family," her uncle spat. "I have obeyed," Ebony said, her voice shaking but clear. "I have never insulted our ways." "Obedience is not enough when shame walks beside you," her father said, cold and absolute. Her mother shifted uneasily, tears glimmering in the dim light. I cannot say more," she murmured, her words like leaves falling silently. Her aunt shook her head, eyes narrowed. The city has filled her with dangerous thoughts. A girl must not choose over elders. Ebony's chest ached. "I worked. I honored this home. I carried it on my shoulders. Why am I cast aside without a chance?" But no one answered. Silence became the sentence. In African wisdom, silence is the voice of finality. Her father rose, casting a long shadow. A family survives by its name. If one child threatens it, the family must choose itself over love. A small bag was pushed toward her. There were no prayers, no guiding words, no blessing from elders. She was being exiled, not with ceremony, but with condemnation. It was symbolic banishment, harsher than any words could express. Ebony stepped outside. The door closed behind her, a final drumbeat of rejection. The sky responded, as if it had been waiting. Rain fell suddenly, heavy and cold. It swept over the streets, washing dust and tears alike. In African tales, rain speaks. It mourns, it cleanses, it carries sorrow in each drop. And now, it mirrored Ebony's heart. Broken, wet, and alone, she hugged herself, shivering, and began walking. The road stretched ahead like fate itself, dark, slippery, uncertain. Every step pulled her away from the past she had known and toward a future she could not see. Hunger clawed at her stomach. Fear pressed upon her shoulders. But African elders say that when the world turns its back, the brave must walk forward, even if their feet bleed. "Ancestors," she whispered, voice trembling through the rain, "do not forget me. Guide me." The city watched without mercy. Cars passed, indifferent. Lights flickered across puddles, casting reflections that danced and mocked. Every step Ebony took felt heavier. Each heartbeat a drum of both courage and despair. Darkness pressed in from all sides, thick with the weight of abandonment. Then, ahead, a light moved slowly through the rain, a car, polished and dark, stopping near the curb. Its windows were opaque, the kind that had lives within. To Ebony's eyes, tired and desperate, it seemed like a gift from the heavens. She stumbled forward, hands lifted, calling out. "Taxi!" she shouted, voice breaking. Her shoes slipped in the mud. Water soaked through her clothes, chilling her to the bone. But she ran, driven by the instinct of survival, and the hope that this car might be a hand reaching down to lift her from despair. Each droplet of rain on her face was a reminder. The road was destiny, cruel but necessary. Behind her lay the echoes of a home that had chosen honor over love. Before her, the unknown waited. And as she reached the car, heart pounding, breath ragged, She felt that for the first time in weeks, fate might finally speak. The car's engine purred softly. The rain fell harder, a curtain between her past and the promise of what was to come. Ebony lifted her head, eyes glistening, hands trembling. She had nowhere else to run. And in that moment, the city, with all its lights and shadows, held its breath. The first choice of her new life was about to begin. The city was alive with both promise and peril. Towering white houses with glass windows gleamed under flickering streetlights, and modern roads hummed with the endless rhythm of vehicles and hurried footsteps. Yet in the shadow of these grand structures, old neighborhoods whispered stories of hardship. Crumbling walls, narrow alleys, and homes where generations had lived and struggled. Here, opportunity and cruelty walked hand in hand, and fate favored neither the cautious nor the bold. Ebony moved through this restless city with careful, measured steps. She was barely 22, but her face bore the quiet strength of one who had known suffering. Her hands were work-worn, her clothes soaked from the sudden rain. Yet her spirit, though battered, remained alive, raised in a home ruled by tradition and fear. She had been taught that a woman's honor was inseparable from her family's name. Respect, obedience, and patience were her shields. But those shields had failed her now. Inside her home, the air had been thick with judgment and accusation. Her father's voice, cold as stone, had condemned her. "You have brought shame to this house," he had said, eyes hard as carved ebony. "But I have done everything I was told," she had protested, tears blinding her. "Obedience alone cannot hide the disgrace you carry," her uncle had said, his words sharp as a knife. Her mother had looked away, silence heavier than words, as if mourning the child she had once loved more than tradition. Her aunts and cousins whispered, their tongues weaving rumors that had grown faster than truth could follow. In their eyes, Ebony was no longer a daughter. She was a fault, a mark against a family name. And then the door had closed. No embrace, no blessing, only a shove into the rain-soaked streets. The bag she carried was small, heavy with necessity, but empty of comfort or reassurance. She was cast out, humiliated, and left to the mercy of a world that had not yet learned her name. Outside, the city seemed to mock her. Rain fell in relentless sheets, drumming against rooftops and puddles, as if the heavens themselves mourned with her. In African storytelling, rain is a voice, of sorrow, of cleansing, of prayers unanswered yet heard. Each drop that fell on her bare skin was a reminder of abandonment and of the cleansing path fate often demands. Darkness pressed in on all sides, swallowing the streets and echoing the void left in her heart. Ebony hugged herself, shivering, and began to walk. The road stretched ahead like a winding thread of destiny, unknown, treacherous, yet unavoidable. Each step carried her further from the life she had known, each heartbeat a drum of courage and despair intertwined. Hunger gnawed at her, exhaustion clawed at her muscles, yet she kept moving, driven by a quiet, stubborn hope. "Ancestors, hear me," she whispered to the empty streets, voice shaking against the rain. "Guide my feet, protect my spirit." In the whispers of the wind, she felt the ancient voices of her elders, teaching her that even in rejection, a righteous path is possible. Even when abandoned, a daughter of the earth and sky must find her way. Then, ahead, a light appeared through the rain, a car, sleek and dark, stopping at the edge of the puddle-strewn street. Its windows were tinted, reflecting nothing but shadows, and the soft hum of its engine cut through the storm. Ebony's tired eyes widened. To her, it seemed like destiny's hand reaching from the clouds, offering deliverance. She stumbled forward, hands shaking, heart pounding. "Taxi!" she called, her voice raw with desperation. Her shoes slipped in the mud, water soaking through her clothes. But she ran, propelled by hunger, fear, and the fragile hope that someone, somewhere, would show her mercy. Each step on the slick road felt like walking on the edge of fate itself, where one misstep could plunge her into darkness. The car's engine idled patiently, as though waiting for her to choose, for her to claim this moment that fate had placed before her. Ebony reached it, drenched and trembling. Yet in her eyes there was a spark, a recognition that her journey, though uncertain, had reached the first crossroad. This was the threshold between the life that had rejected her and the world she had never dared to enter. Rain continued to fall, thick and unrelenting, drumming against the city in a mournful rhythm. The road beneath her reflected both the sky and her own fear, the puddles shimmering like mirrors of destiny. The city, with all its lights and shadows, seemed to hold its breath. The night whispered secrets of the paths yet to come, and the storm, both cruel and compassionate, marked the end of one chapter and the hesitant beginning of another. Ebony lifted her head. Wet hair plastered to her face, and extended her hand toward the car. The vehicle seemed more than metal. It was the first touch of chance in weeks of despair. She did not yet know who waited inside, nor the trials that awaited her, but the road had delivered her to this moment. Fate had stopped, and in the rain, on the restless streets of the city that both crushed and promised, Ebony stood at the edge of destiny, trembling, vulnerable, yet alive.